Here's the story from the Daily Mail. Tuning out. Viewership at scandal-plagued CNN plummets by as much as 90% from last year in both overall audience and in their advertiser-coveted 25 to 54 demographic. I'm smiling right now, or I'm holding back laughing, to be honest. They say the network averaged just 548,000 viewers during the week of January 3rd, a precipitous drop from the nearly 2.7 million viewers from the same week in 2021. CNN in the last year has been plagued by high-profile scandals. Critics have slammed network boss Jeff Zucker over the declining ratings. This is where it gets crazy. Let me read this. Where's that good number I want to see? Here we go. CNN saw an 86% decline in the much desirable 25 to 54 demo, with a paltry 113,000 tuned in last week compared to the 822,000 CNN averaged a year ago.
Wow.
If you want to understand how bad that is, you can just look at our videos and they'll have 350 to 500,000 views. That doesn't show you the live viewer count on these shows, which is often around 250,000 people who watch live. YouTube does this weird system where they're separated. There's different analytics for the live stream versus the people watching the VOD version. But I will just tell you, our audience is like 90% key demographic. So if we're getting 500,000 people per night and CNN's getting none, well, I guess it's good news. The narrative is breaking. The matrix is shattering. People are starting to get away from corporate press BS. And while that sounds really good, I still have to point out CNN gets propped up on YouTube and still gets 100 million views per month on
this
YouTube.
Also is a little, an extreme title. They say as much as 90% because they're talking about an election year. Oh, 2 weeks.
No, they're not. They're talking about 2021.
But they're comparing it to 2020 after the election.
Right.
So that was a hot news period, those few weeks before January 20th, So to compare it to that specific day.
No, I'm sorry. I got to correct you. Sorry. It is this week being compared to 2021. So it is fair to say January of 2021 was a
COVID
big
has
news.
warped my mind, dude. I thought the election was last year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, it could just be because you've been sleeping.
Wait, Biden's been president for 2 years? Tell me that this is not right.
1 year.
Yeah.
Year and a month.
Biden came in 2021.
Yeah.
All right, I'm out of the time warp.
Yeah, a year and
okay,
a
so
month,
yeah. That
Ian,
week.
you need to change your sleeping habits. That's another story.
You might be right.
But who would have thought, watching the deep state television is not popular? Who would have thunk it? And again, we also have to understand that overall, when it comes to cable television, their viewership has been going down dramatically. But I don't think CNN has been doing themselves any favors, especially with their lineups, especially with their scandals, especially with Lubin Tubin, the Vanderbilt, Creepy Como, and telling people not to read the WikiLeaks because it was illegal, telling people that there was definitely Russian collusion, obsessing about Donald Trump nonstop when he had 2 scoops of ice cream. I mean, come on. I can't believe, this is not surprising that they lost 90% of their viewership. I'm surprised they didn't lose all of their viewership, to be completely honest with you.
Well,
from what I've been seeing.
They no longer have the airport contract, but they're still in hotels.
Oh, yeah.
So it won't be zero.
I haven't read your book yet, but in the book, did you follow CNN at all and go deep on them?
Yeah, the book opens with a scene at CNN with Don Lemon and Kirsten Powers, and they're sitting there talking about how Donald Trump winning is proof of the enduring and unabated white supremacy in America. And, they're sitting there, these two people who are worth, $10 million and $25 million apiece, and sneering and looking down their nose at a president's supporters, a president who won 67% of whites without a college degree, right? And to me, that was sort of the opening primal scene, because I think a lot of what we're seeing here, it looks like it's about politics. It sometimes looks like it's about race, but actually it's about class.
Can you say the name of your book one more time for people who are just tuning in?
It's called, I don't know why I can't say it without doing this, Bad News, How Woke Media is Undermining Democracy.
Yes.
Basically what happened over the course of the 20th century was journalism went from being a blue-collar job to being the provenance of, the most highly educated, very affluent, top 10% elites. And Tim, I think you represent what journalism used to be. Like the fathers of American journalism, they were populists. They were guys who dropped out of high school or didn't go to high school, working class guys who had to really struggle, who then went out to the people to report and crucially felt a deep sense of responsibility to those people to be responsive to them, to give them what they were asking for and to treat them with respect. And that's been your career in journalism, and that's the opposite of what we see in places like CNN and the New York Times.
I disagree with you, because I would say, a Vanderbilt, Anderson Cooper, definitely has more of a sense of reality and more of a humbleness to him than any of other peasants out there. And clearly his upbringing, his affluence has brought him to be more knowledgeable and more special than all of us.
Yeah.
But I wonder if it's not so much about upbringing or anything. Luke and I have had very different, actually maybe even sort of similar, in some ways. Luke coming from Poland, a family that dealt with the Soviet era communist stuff in Poland, and coming to the United States. And it is populism. I think it's also, I want to be left alone, right? I don't want anyone to be my boss. I don't want to have a boss. I don't want to be anyone's boss. And here we are, somehow I have a company with employees. But my attitude towards the news is, I'll just tell you and you do your thing. Because I look at it this way. If I got a neighbor, I don't want to be micromanaging and dealing with all of his problems. I want to be able to be like, guy, the reason why you've got this problem here with this, sewage leak is because you did these things. Fix it and leave me alone. Whereas you've got a lot of people who seem to think, these journalists particularly, and the establishment political class, let me just be in control of everyone's lives. So it's easier that way. Like, Bloomberg wants to put a tax on sugary drinks so that you can't buy them. I don't have anything to do with it. If you want to drink sugar drinks, you go ahead and do it. I don't care. I'll tell you it's bad for you, and then you can do whatever you want. So I think that right there, there's a meme where it shows a bunch of people and they're all yelling, and then it shows someone at a podium and the journalist has got his back to the podium and he's bullhorning at the crowd, repeating what the podium says. And then it says and it's like, that's how journalism is, how it's supposed to be, is the guy with the bullhorn standing in front of the people yelling at the guy with the podium. That's the way I kind of see it,
But what you're describing is contempt, right? My book is about contempt. It's about how the media, which is supposed to be on the side of the little guy, fighting for the little guy against the guy at the podium, right, became on the side of the guy at the podium because they go to the same schools as millionaires and billionaires, and they live in the same neighborhoods as people at the top of the food chain and politicians, and their kids go to the same schools as all these other elites. They are now on the side of power, and they have immense amounts of contempt for the working class just dripping off of them.
I gotta say it. My favorite moment of the Donald Trump election cycle in 2015 was when he ordered that 30-day dry-aged steak well done with ketchup. And I could see it the moment he did it.
Totally.
Regular, working class, middle Americans, whatever, they go to the grocery store. They can't afford filet mignon, so they get a T-bone. They cook it through and put ketchup on it because that's the way to make it taste better. Trump knows this, and he was trying to have these people look at him and be like, that's how I do it. And the media laughed and they mocked him and talked about how stupid and uncouth he was. And it just made regular people hate the media. They were like, you're not making fun of him, you're making fun of me. I'm poor. I can't afford your expensive trash with your fancy garlic and volcanic salt, Wagyu beef or whatever we
Tim.
had.
I mean, the way I say it, maybe you would see it a little bit differently, but I kind of want to ping off your perspective, because being in the digital world, being at some of these events, I see two classes of journalists. There's one class that's kind of drug addicted with substance abuse problems, and another class that's the kind of snobby limousine liberals that think that they're better and know better what's for everyone else. I don't see a distinction, and very rarely do I see anyone kind of in the middle of that, or anyone outside of those two categories. Would you agree or disagree?
Well, I'll just give you some statistics. So 92% of journalists in America today have a college degree, which is obscene because you can't teach journalism. You can't teach someone to do what you do, to be a good listener, to ask the right questions, to question your own biases, to be willing to be wrong.
You can.
Well, they're not.
When they're 3 years old.
Yeah.
A person learns a lot of these skills when they're very young.
It's true, yeah.
So you take someone who's, been brought up in a family that's well off, maybe got help at their New York condominium, put them in college and then think they're going to be able to listen. It's not going to happen.
I went to college for journalism for a year, then switched over to theater. But in the journalism thing, I got an opportunity to do my college TV station. I did like sports for the TV station and special reporting. And I also learned how to copy edit That was so they were teaching me structure, but not ethics. There's no mention ever
Right.
of ethics.
Right. So 92% have a college degree. The majority have a graduate degree, which is a purely vanity degree that costs $70,000. To become a journalist in America today, you have to be able to take a starting salary of $30,000 a year, but 75% of those jobs are on the coast in the most expensive American cities, which means you have to come from money, essentially. Like everyone you see on your TV, everyone you read in the New York Times, these people come from money. They are overeducated and they look down on you. And I think that's what we're seeing is the American people are too smart for this garbage. They are too smart for it and they're tuning it out.
I love it so much. I grew up in a rough and tumble kind of neighborhood in life. Luke had his South Bronx and Poland, all that stuff. So I think
South Brooklyn.
So, yeah, sorry, Brooklyn, not Bronx. So I think there's certainly something to like witnessing real life and hardship. I have contempt for the elites who think they're smarter and better than everyone else when they're just people. I know a lot of people, and I've met a lot of people in my life who are wealthy and humble and libertarian and be like, I'm never going to try and look, I've got, thing going for me. I'm going to let you do your thing because I don't want to press. And I respect that. But there are a lot of people who are like, well, my family knows better and I'm better. And there's nothing more satisfying than to see snooty elites with their fancy degrees who think they're smarter and better than everyone fail when they try to go into these news organizations to tell people how to live, what to do, why they're smarter than you. And then they can't figure out why they're laden with debt, why they're struggling to find work, but they still think they're smarter. And you know what? I just sit back and say, if you weren't such an asshole, maybe I'd have some sympathy for you. And to all of the people I've met who've got college degrees because they were told to do it and got massive student debt and are nice and realistic and willing to listen, I have nothing but respect for them. But there is this class of people that enters media where they just, the way they prove themselves is to get a job in the media so that they can be given access to a platform that they don't deserve, that they've not proven with merit, and then yell at you and talk about how much better they are than you and how you're a bigot and you're racist and you voted for Donald Trump. Well, certainly you're a white supremacist. When in reality, it's probably some dude who's like, I lost my job. My kids need food. Donald Trump says he's going to bring my factory back. And that was it. And they don't want to listen to those people. They're just stupid. Learn to code. Why don't you learn to code? And then when you speak up and say, why don't you learn to code? When they lose their jobs, Twitter bans you for it. I can't stand these people. They're elites. They're pompous. They think they're better than everybody.
So let me ask you this. Maybe you don't want to answer this, but when you got to Vice, were you suddenly surrounded by exactly that type of person?
Mostly. In 2013... So I actually met the Vice people in 2011 after Occupy. And Vice was a hole in the wall, man. They apparently took over an old skate shop or something. I don't know the history of that building. It was cool. And that's why I liked them. And that's why when I started saying, okay, now I'm going to take my skills and bring it to actual news, I went to Vice because it was punk rock. They were edgy. They were nonpartisan.
Oh, good.
The CEO of Vice went on Colbert and he was like, look, we're not Democrat, we're not Republican, we're just storytellers, we're here to talk about what we see. And I was like, thank you, I don't care about this stuff. But when I get in, I got in around the time it started turning into that. And it's because they got money. Murdoch came in, he gave him $70 million. Then I watched one by one the core crew of Vice get fired abruptly and replaced with a New York media establishment individual fresh out of college with the Rolodex. Some people went on, I'm going to go work for Bloomberg, or they came from Bloomberg. And then all of a sudden things just started changing. And I was just like, it's not the scrappy, edgy hole in the wall in Williamsburg. Williamsburg was a dirt hole in New York. It's probably why they set up there. It was cheaper to be in New York and it was cheap. Well, they helped gentrify the area. They bring in all this hipster youth. And then all of a sudden it's virtue signaling hipsters who think they're smarter than you. And they know it. So I left. And I went to a Disney company and not better.
Yeah.
So they promised it wasn't going to be woke. They were like, we're going to be nice Vice. We're going to be like real. Fusion had a show about drug wars. It was actually called Drug Wars. And they tracked like federales and government agents going after the cartels and stuff. And I was like, wow, that's cool stuff. And then within 6 to 8 months, they were like, new editor-in-chief, we're going woke. Everything we're going to do is going to be about wokeness. And I'm like...
What year was that?
2014.
Yeah, that tracks.
Well, so
yeah.
in 2014 is when I started. And then it was mid-2015, early to mid-2015, where they were like... What I think happened was they had one video about a transgender child. that got a huge, it was a huge hit. It got them like 100,000 views. And that was one of their first videos that actually got traffic. And then all of a sudden they were like, that's it. That's what young people want. What I absolutely love about this is when you have these middle-aged marketing white dudes who don't know anything about what's going on. And so they were asked, like, what's 2016 going to look like for Fusion? And the guy goes, gender. And they're like, and what does that mean? He goes, we're just going to be heavily focused on gender. No, seriously. And people were like, I don't know what that means. Do you know what you're saying? They got a few big videos, and they decided that was their audience. And then I said, look, man, Luke and I, we went to Fukushima while I worked there. I'm like, I go on the ground to like these conflict and crisis situations and film that and explore it. What am I going to do? And so they tried to do some stuff like I went to a weapons expo, and we looked at all the different like riot control weapons that pertain to like the protest movement and stuff.
And we tested them out, but that video footage never made it out there with me and Tim literally having tear gas, sitting in a chair, testing who's going to sit there the longest. If this crazy military guy being like, okay, now we're going to do this. And I'm like, okay. We got tasered too. Do you remember the tasering?
I didn't get tasered. You got tasered?
The stomach. There's a video. Was it me or you?
You.
I think so. I think I got tasered.
Wait, where did you wake up after
He didn't have the gunshot, the firing one. He had the one that you have to put towards your body. I think it was only like 20,000 volts. But I think, yeah. He hit me. Yeah, it was me. Yeah, I remember getting tasered.
Oh
the issue was, check this out.
How long did you
The video never made it out to the general public.
But
This is when I was
value.
sleeping on like Tim Pool's couches when he was working for Disney.
I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
So I go to the higher ups, and they were talking. We met this guy. He was one of their specialists in weapons training and stuff. And it turned out, I don't want to say too much, but this is a guy of experience, to say the least, international law enforcement, government stuff. And so I said, can you talk to us about strategies for riot control? And he's like, yes, I can. And then I said, we need to go somewhere where we can test all this stuff out. Is there maybe like a field somewhere? You know, we're in Miami, there's a lot of farmland. And they were like, you got it. And I said, let's have this guy. He was like, people can't know who I am because of the work I've done. I work behind the scenes. I said, wear a mask. We'll have you wear a mask. We'll have you do all this stuff. We'll go in the middle of nowhere. So they give us the address, and we're driving there. And I see, they're like, okay, we're here. And I'm looking around. I'm like, this can't be right. We're like a parking lot across the street from a McDonald's. There's people everywhere. I'm like, no, this is it. And it was a garage. And the guy comes out, and I'm like, you expect us to let off tear gas and flashbangs in a parking lot of a McDonald's?
Yeah, sure.
And that's what they did. And I was like, dude, I don't want to have anything to do with this, man. You're crazy. They brought out a bunch of crazy equipment that made everything look really nuts.
The FBI showed up.
Oh my
They did?
Yes, remember? I put like an Instagram story or a Snapchat story back then, and then the FBI showed up there, and then they were like, what's going on here? And then the guy explained it, and then they went away. But,
Oh, wow.
But,
Wow.
yeah.
I was on the phone, actually. I was on the phone, like, being like, what are you guys, what did you think this was going to be? Like, we're supposed to be looking at rubber bullets, foam rounds, tear gas, and we're in an urban parking lot. There's people everywhere. We can't do this. And they were like, what's the problem? And I was like, you want to take responsibility for someone getting tear gassed? I don't want to be involved in that. So, yeah, it never made it to TV.
Yes.
That's hilarious.
So there's footage out there of me getting tasered that's denied to everyone.
Go find it.
Just
Darn
for the
it.
record.
I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.